Let's go out on the video chat. Welcome in Jack Moore. He's the voice of many things, the Oshawa Generals and the Ontario Hockey League, but also the Laurier Golden Hawks. Thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Always good to join you. Always good to chat, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
When do you fly out? You're going to go to Regina. You're going to be part of that broadcast with CBC. Leave Friday?
Yeah, leave Friday night, come back Sunday morning, and then we got a Generals game 2:00 Sunday afternoon. So it should be a fun weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been to Regina before, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the city. And I think I'm going to show up to Mosaic a little early so I can try and sneak in as many places as possible and just take it all in, because that's definitely been on my bucket list for a while. But excited. It's going to be a great weekend of football. Obviously, the Grey Cup on Sunday, but the two University National semis we have this weekend should be just fantastic.
Yeah, they're going to be great. Clark, games on Saturday. Is the Italian Star Deli open on Saturdays? I think it is, isn't it? He's going to Google it. That's the place. You got to go for an Italian Star Deli sandwich. All the CFL guys coming in on the road. That's the spot. If there's only one, that's probably it. And it's kind of on the way to the stadium. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, there you go. So, there's your recommendation. Also, pack warm, even though, I don't know what the forecast is looking for early, probably pretty nice, but pack warm.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be around 0 degrees. It's kind of changed on the precipitation, and when it's raining, I think you'd rather it be a little bit more snowy than rainy, but yeah, I'm going to definitely pack the layers and make sure I'm nice and warm in there. I'm a Southern Ontario guy, I know you are. I'm soft. I'm soft when it comes to cold.
Zero is, and everyone that's watching this, because we have a lot of Western Canadians that watch this show, they're like, 0 is fantastic for this time of year, like amazing. So that's warm, but yeah, pack the layers. Look, let's start there. Rams and Rouge et Or, like it should be great. On paper, I think a lot of people look at this and think, okay, Laval, they have a history of being one of the best teams in Canada. Regina was a 3-5 team in the regular season, but that defense that the Rams have, I don't think that Laval or Laurier or Bishops have seen a defense like this season. I think they're that good, but what are you looking at going into this one?
Yeah, I definitely think the defense is going to be key. Both sides of the ball. I mean, you're talking about two top 7 defenses in the country when it comes to Regina and Laval. But when you play in the Canada West, you're very more battle tested through the regular season. Every week is a tough week. It's ultimately the Wild West out there, because you don't know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. But something that was consistent through the regular season for Regina was how strong their defense was able to play from start to finish. So I think it's going to give Laval fits. What I think benefits Laval over Montreal is Laval's a little bit more of a balanced offense. They can run the ball on you, but they can also throw. They have the RSEQ MVP and Arnaud Desjardins at quarterback, who's already won a national championship as a starting quarterback back in 2022. So I think it's going to be difficult for Regina throughout the course of the game. The big thing for them is going to be if their offense can just maintain time of possession, if they can keep Laval's offense off the field and maintain drives, not necessarily scoring on every drive, but holding time of possession, giving their defense a break, forcing Laval to defense to be on the field a lot more than their defense. That's going to be the big key in this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Regina does at quarterback. Noah Pelche got hurt at the end of that last game, so there's some question marks there. That could be a key factor. Now, you're more familiar. Let's go back to the Yates Cup. It was on this network on Game Plus. Big win over Western. Taylor Elgersma, I watched him early on in the year, and we've watched his year go. To me, it was the Western game in the regular season that was kind of the statement game, the coming out party, you put up some numbers, but that was the moment. And then when you get a chance to play Western again, you kind of think, okay, he did it once, but to really cement himself as a pro prospect, can he do it again? And he answered the bell.
Yeah, I mean, in the regular season, you talked about it. He started that game 8 for 8. I think he threw for over 200 yards in the first half. And then in the Yates Cup, just the ability to dissect that Western defense. One of the most impressive touchdowns of the game for me was to Ethan Jordan. He created separation on Jackson Finley, and CFL fans should get used to that name because he's going to be a guy who goes in the first round of the CFL draft. And the ability to create separation on a corner out to the back of the end zone, and Taylor Elgersma just put it in a perfect spot. I've been able to watch Taylor for the last 4 years, and seeing him get thrown into the chaos year number one after Connor Carosello gets hurt week one against the York Lions, and Taylor has to step in as a first-year quarterback and go through that process. He really showed signs that he could develop well, but it was all going to be how he approached it. 2022, he took a step forward. Team went 5-3, and then you saw him put up, the best completion percentage in the history of the conference in 2023 at 76%. He had a down year, just 74.5% this year on his completion percentage. But he's really taken strides forward. And I think it's been a while since USports, obviously Trey Ford was the guy who came in, and now he's in the CFL with Edmonton. But I think it's been a while since we've seen that like pro system quarterback like Taylor Elgersma come out of Canadian university football. And I think it's raising a lot of eyebrows with CFL scouts, just his ability to process the game. Michael Folds told us going into the broadcast on Friday afternoon, he told us, if you were able to get to your third or fourth read as a starting quarterback, you were happy if you hit that 5 times a year. Taylor Elgersma is hitting fourth and fifth reads 5 times a game. Like, he processes the game so quickly. He has a phenomenal offensive line in front of him, and he has great weapons on the outside, but his ability to process information, get the ball out of his hands, and make the right read is really, really impressive.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. And, I've even heard, just with his build and the way he reads defenses, but then throws the football, not just a Canadian pro prospect, but he could get some looks down in the United States as well. He's going to some of those elite camps and, some of those looks. So that's fun to watch as we look. But on the other side, what do we know about Bishops? Because when it comes out of the AUS, we always have question marks. We always think, okay, that's the free space in the bingo card. And they've had a good year and started to create a little bit of, maybe they're the one to come out of the AUS. And then in the Loney Bowl, it looked kind of like they weren't going to get out of it. They needed overtime just to get into the UTEC. So what do you expect out of Bishops?
Well, they needed a fumble by St. Mary's just to get the ball and kick the tying field goal to get into overtime. Like, they really got the bounces their way, and sometimes great teams need to learn to win those tight games. They've had a phenomenal year just trying to get through and push forward. And we've seen how St. FX has really run that conference the last couple of years. And there was times over the last few years where you said, hey, St. FX is ready to make that jump. And then they get on the national stage and it's not quite there. They had a great game against Saskatchewan in 2022. But last year against UBC, they got outclassed. The year before against Western, they got blown out of the water. So you do definitely have the question marks. We talk about strength of schedule and quality of opponents coming out of Canada West, where you're in a battle every single week. And it's shocking, but not shocking to see a 3-5 team come out of that conference. For Bishops, like for the AUS, everything comes out of, well, if you win, you have to show strong in the national semifinal. And they have a tough task. I mean, Laurier's offense is just phenomenal. And if they're clicking, their offense is going to have some problems. Laurier likes to rotate their defensive line. They bring in, they don't run just 4 guys every time. They have 8 defensive linemen dressed, and they all take reps throughout the entirety of the game. They get 35 to 40 good snaps out of their defensive line. Bishops runs most of their running game out of just their offensive line. They don't bring in a fullback too often. So it's going to be tough in the trenches with Laurier's defense. And you got a middle linebacker in Ethan Gregorczyk, 19 years old, 6'3", 240 pounds. The kid's a freak in the middle of the defense, but he's also got great pieces around him. So Bishops is going to have their fits. If they can move the ball and score, keep Laurier's offense off the field like we talked about with Regina's offense, I think they have a chance. But really, when you don't get the cross-conference play in the regular season, we don't know what it's going to look like when the best team in the AUS goes up against the best team in the OUA, when the best team in the Canada West goes up against the best team in the RCQ. So you just have to look at the teams individually and on the eye test. And everybody I seem to talk to seem to think that the RSEQ championship game and the OUA championship game were the four best teams in the country this year. So those Canada West and the AUS champs have a tough task this week trying to punch up to their opponents. But luckily for both of them, they don't have to travel. Laurier has a 9-hour bus trip. Laval's got to fly out to Regina. So it's not going to be easy going on the road because you're also not used to that type of travel in the regular season. You think about Laval, they're in Quebec City. They only have to go to Sherbrooke and they only have to go to Montreal to play the road games. Laurier, a little bit longer, maybe 6 hours to Ottawa. But other than that, you don't have long road trips. And this is a Laurier team who had a 6-week stance where they didn't leave Waterloo region, and their first game before that was in Hamilton, which is 45 minutes down the road. So it's not a team that's used to traveling. They had a couple longer road trips at the end of the year, but I think the travel and the home field advantage for the teams that would be the underdogs in this game might go into their advantage.
And the Rams don't have to play in front of 30,000 or 25,000 fans in Quebec City. So that's an advantage, Rams, right away. Look, how much are you paying attention during Grey Cup week, and who do you like in the 111th Grey Cup?
I'm trying my best. I'm trying to, because I'm not as familiar with the RSEQ and the Canada West. I really have to dive into who the guys are. But I think the Argos are going to have a tough time. It's my team, my hometown team. I love my Argos, but with no Chad Kelly in there, I think Nick Arbuckle can be a guy who can step in. He won a game against Winnipeg in the regular season, but this is a Winnipeg team that looks a lot different than they did when Toronto beat them 16-14 in the regular season with Arbuckle at quarterback. And in that game, he only had 87 passing yards. So Toronto's offense really has to get it going. You saw what Winnipeg's rushing offense was able to do against Saskatchewan, one of the best rush defenses in the CFL. So I think the Argos are going to have a tough time. If I'm allowed to pick with the spread, I like the Argos +9. But if I'm picking a Grey Cup champ, I think Winnipeg is just playing at a different level right now, and it's going to be really, really tough for the Argos to get the ball moving offensively with Nick Arbuckle stepping in and Chad Kelly out.
Yeah, I agree. And yesterday when we pulled it up, the spread was as high as 10.5 for Winnipeg. So I'm leaning that way too. With the spread, definitely, I think Toronto can keep this within a touchdown. It's a big game. And lastly, before I let you go, just a little quick look on the OHL, because I know you're the voice of the Oshawa Generals. We were out there on the weekend, and that was a heavyweight tilt, right? Kitchener was number one team in the league against Oshawa, and the Generals picked up a nice win, and maybe one or two guys we might see at Christmas in the World Juniors.
Yeah, Callum Ritchie is definitely, I think you can pen him into your World Junior roster. He took over that game on Sunday, like you saw, 2 goals and an assist against the top team in the OHL in a 3-2 win for the Generals. If he didn't miss the start of the year with shoulder surgery last year, there's an argument to be made that he could have been the OHL MVP over Easton Cowan from London. Not discrediting what Easton did and the phenomenal year he had, but Callum Ritchie is one of the best, if not the best players in the OHL. And then Colby Barlow, the Winnipeg Jets prospect, hasn't been able to find the net as consistently as he's wanted to, but you can see his complete game really molding a lot more since he's come over to the Generals organization. And then Beckett Seneca could make that team too when he's on his game and he's playing north-south. He is one of the most explosive, if not the best players in the OHL. So for Ritchie and Seneca to be on the same line, it's really a scary thought for opposing teams in their own zone with those guys coming in on them. So those are the 3 guys, and don't discredit Luca Morelli. Might be able to shift in on the defensive side as well. He's had a great start to the year, both in his own zone and offensively, tied for the league lead in defenseman points this year. So definitely a lot of guys you can look at on this Oshawa roster that could get the nod for Team Canada camp for the World Juniors, and I'd expect 1, if not 2 to 4 on the team.
Well, it's been fun to watch and been fun to follow, Jack. Appreciate this. Have fun in Regina. Stay warm, and we'll see you Sunday when you get back to Oshawa.
Yeah, I'll see you on Sunday. Thanks so much for having me, Darren.
All right, Jack Moore joining us here. And a great look at the Final Four in USports football coming up this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. If you missed it, it'll be up on YouTube later on today.